Hey everyone, welcome to the ATDev Podcast. We're so lucky to be joined today by Paul Amadeus Lane. Hey Paul, how's it going?
Owen, it is so great to see you, my friend. You are just a breath of fresh air whenever I get a message from you, whenever I get a ping from you. It's always great to hear from you, and I am doing fantastic, and I'm doing much better that I'm talking to you, my friend.
You're too kind, and I feel the same way about you. I just love the work that you've done and the movement that you've created in the space.
Thank you so much. All I have to do is follow the paths of giants like yourself, Owen, and that has helped pave the way for us, my friend.
Oh, thank you. And so, for people who aren't familiar with who you are and what you've done, would you mind telling us a little bit about your journey and how did you get here?
Absolutely. I am a quadriplegic, power wheelchair user, African American male, salt and pepper beard, been injured for 32 years and from a spinal cord injury. And I am one of those guys who just don't take no for an answer. And that led me to just try different things I never thought I would be a part of. When I got injured, I was always looking for ways to reinvent myself. I was a musician at the time that I was injured. I was also an emergency medical technician. I worked on the ambulance, worked with emergency services, 911, drove the ambulance,
Mm,
also an ambulance attendant.
yeah,
And when I was injured, I was like, what am I going to do now? So to make a long story short, Owen, I tried my hands in a lot of different things, and then in 2006, I went to broadcasting school. So I was like, hey, I can't do that much physically, but I can always use my mouth, and that led me to go to broadcasting school. Graduated from there with
I,
honors, and that kind of propelled everything after that, Owen.
yeah, that's so interesting. And yeah, I personally was born with my disability, and so I think my journey has been different, and but I definitely resonate with what you're saying about having to reinvent yourself, and I think that's a really common theme with people with disabilities and having to make the world adapt to what.
Yeah, I always say, Owen, that I'm like the balance to the force because I spent over a couple of decades as an able-bodied person, and then 3 decades now of someone who person with a disability, and so I always try to look of what things was and what it is now, and they really kind of help shape my view with a lot of things and help me when it comes to being a tech consultant, advocacy work. Helps me to have a pretty good balance of just what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think in some respects for me, I certainly would not be doing the work that I'm doing today if I did not have a disability.
Yeah,
And I think yeah, there's some interesting truth there.
yeah. And you know what, Owen? I've been asked before, would I change if I could? And the answer is no. I don't know what I would have been if I didn't have my disability because the disability opened up so many doors for me, made me much more impactful, not only in my life, but also in other people's life too. And if Paul never had that accident, what would Paul be doing now? So
Right.
it's something that I always look back on, and I wouldn't change a thing, Owen. I wouldn't even know you right now. You
Hey,
look at all the different relationships that we've learned in the past and present, and it's a great space that we're in.
yeah, yeah, that's a really cool perspective to have. I really appreciate that. And you talked a little bit about your work as a technology consultant. How has technology been a part of your life?
I say it's my third arm, I would call it, if I had three arms.
Nice.
When I first got injured back in 1993, there wasn't a lot of assistive and adaptive technologies. I had my manual wheelchair, had my power wheelchair, but there wasn't things that could help my life and your life to help us to be more independent. I used to have someone turn the TV for me. I used to have the person dial a phone for me. A lot of things I
Right.
couldn't do. And that kind of shaped me when I had an opportunity to be in the space of a technology consultant, to use my lived experience to see what can make things better and easier for ones who got injured or was born with a disability after me, so they won't have the frustrations that I've had just trying to use things that I love to do.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And yeah, it is amazing how rapidly technology has evolved and how it has enabled. Yeah, you talked about not having to have someone help you with using the telephone, and that's such a what so many people take for granted. And I think especially in today's day and age with the hyper connectedness of the internet and social media, but disability, it can be limiting in a lot of ways that people don't initially think about. And communication is a huge aspect of that.
Yeah, that is so true. And I want to say this too, Owen, through me reporting and talking about technology, I went in intentionally not even trying to talk about assistive and adaptive technologies. That wasn't even on my radar. But I
Mm.
would find myself being compelled now. Like when I would cover CES, started covering CES back in 2009. I used to host
Oh,
a
wow.
morning show out here in Southern California. So I
Oh,
convinced the
cool.
station owner, I was like, hey, can I take the show on the road to CES? So the folks at CES granted me permission to do. I start feeling compelled now when I'm talking to ones saying this right here, Owen. How can someone myself use your product or technology? And that just snowballed to me not doing the morning show, but now me being tech and accessibility focused
Mm.
because I fell in love with it because I felt I was in a great space to have these conversations about technology, accessibility, ones from our community to see how I'm sitting in front of CMOs, CTOs, and I'm like, hey, look at us. We're 30% of the market. Listen to us.
Yeah, that's so cool. And yeah, that's such a cool transition you made. And yeah, I would love to learn a little bit more about just your approach to storytelling. You mentioned your experience in broadcast journalism, and how do you go about covering stories, both technology and otherwise?
Thank you for that question, Owen. I've always been a storyteller since I was younger. I had a vivid imagination. I know what things interest me. So hopefully, when I tell stories of ones who in the technology space, that I can start from the beginning and draw that line to get to a destination when it comes to understanding. So when I talk to different tech companies, different ones in the tech world, I like to always start off with the origin story.
Mm,
I found out when you start with the origin story, people who are listening are going to have some kind of connection because something that the person who I'm interviewing is going to say about the origin story is going to resonate with somebody out there. It could
yeah,
be triumph over tragedy, it could be frustration, it could be having a dream and wanting to make things better. That's my approach to make sure that I leave the listener like they have been knowing this person all of their life. And then that helps them to have a personal connection with that person who I'm talking to, and not just looking at a person of, oh, this person created this project or this product and this and that, but making that person live in the listeners and viewers' mind that they can connect with.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. Need to reflect on that some more. I feel like there's so much to unpack there, but it's really true. When you're telling a story, having that human component and that origin story, it makes it that much more compelling.
Yeah, and Owen, that it just really shows that we've come to a transition when it comes to media and storytelling, that it's not about these cookie cutter kind of interviews like 8 minutes and it's somebody, you ask them about the product, where can they buy it, let's
Right.
go, that's it. Now it's, we want to know, we're nosy people by nature, so
Yeah.
we want to know these things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's an interesting parallel with product design and accessibility too. When you're able to bring that, human element into, for example, the accessibility of an app and how, for example, a navigation app like Maps or something. I know we've done some work together in the past with Google on that, but really being person centered and human centered, I think has some parallels between storytelling and product design.
That's true, Owen, and I think now more than ever we really have to have our storytelling abilities the wrong what we're seeing today just in society.
Yeah,
When you
absolutely.
look at, they think a dirty word is inclusion, and what they don't realize, Owen, is you and I are part of that inclusion space. We
Yeah,
want things so that we can be included, so that we can have independent lives. And people don't understand that because they love to be over sensationalized and have their ears tickled so that they can be upset, so they can be frustrated at things. But
yeah,
oh, and you and I, we tell the stories about why inclusion is so beautiful, because one day, Owen, they're going to be like you and I. And when they're like
yeah,
you and I, they're going to want to make sure that they're able to be as independent as possible. So I think we're going to be the great equalizer in this
yeah,
conversation that we're having, Owen. That's why I appreciate what you're doing with your podcast to tell these stories as well.
yeah, yeah. I appreciate that. And I think you're absolutely right. I think that everybody thinks that they're invincible till they need help. And yeah, I think I can definitely relate to what you were saying earlier about your accident changing your perspective and teaching you things that you would not have learned otherwise. And certainly my disability and my life experience has taught me a lot about many things, but in this case, interdependence. And I think that in the disability community, we talk a lot about independence and the independent living movement, but I think that interdependence and focusing on the ecosystem is really important.
That's true. That is so true. And Owen, we are the elder statesmen that can make life better for ones who come after us who have disabilities. And that's one thing that I love your approach, the way you do things, how we want to make sure that we're changing perception, that we're changing the game, so to speak, in any modality out there or any industry out there, that ones with disabilities, ones who have platforms can just change perceptions out there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it is important. And I think that that ties into a question I wanted to ask you about mentorship and mentoring the next generation of people with disabilities. You've had so many experiences, and what I love about your experience is that it's multidisciplinary. It's technology, but it's also entertainment and communication and journalism. What advice or words of wisdom would you have for young people today that were either born with a disability or have acquired a disability? What advice is on your mind?
I would tell them, do not be discouraged. This journey can be discouraging, especially if we try to reach out to ones in our community sometimes. And not everyone is as nice and inviting as Owen and I are. You have ones in our space that have this God complex.
Yeah.
And it has to do with fear. They don't want no one coming and taking their spot away. When you try to reach out to them and say that you're XYZ, you're looking forward to do this and that, and they never respond to you or they never even acknowledge your message, don't let that discourage you. You continue to be laser focused in your resolve of what you want to do. You look for ways that you want to do and do what you want to do to write your own chapters in your own book. Don't let anyone derail you, friends, family, anybody. You can do whatever you set out to do and never let anyone tell you otherwise. And always keep laser focused on your goal.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, I love that. So much truth there, as always, Paul. That's wonderful. I love that. Yeah, thank you. And I think you really touched on a lot of points that resonate with me. And, you know, as I was growing up with a disability, I felt like there were not a lot of role models, either positive or negative, that had a disability. And I think that has changed a lot in the last, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. But there's still a long ways to go. And I think that it's really up to, yeah, to individuals and organizations to keep moving those inclusive mindsets forward and also being brave and putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations where we can help provide representation, but also education to people that are willing to learn.
So true. That's so true. And Owen, when we look at this in its totality, we have been able to be game changers. We, the disabled community, when they built for us, they started really universal design. Think about how many
Mhm.
people use what we got. How do people use curb cutouts? Oh, and everybody. How do
Mhm.
people use voice activated stuff? Everybody. That was
Mhm.
for us. And I'm hoping that these tech companies really just follow our lead with this. Owen and I, we know the keys to the kingdom. We know about universal design. So don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just holler at Owen, holler at me and others like us, and we can get you there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And on that note, if people want to reach out to you, Paul, and connect and learn more about your work, what's a good way to find you and to connect?
They can go to my website, which is paulamadeouslane.com. I know it's kind of outdated, but I'm working on that. All social media is still Paul Amadeus Lane, even LinkedIn, because like Owen, I am a businessman, not a businessman, but I'm a businessman because I'm all about my businessman. So that's how you can connect with me. Love to hear from anybody. Come one, come all. Let's do this.
Awesome, Paul. I, as always, learn something every time we chat. And thank you so much for your time today. And I'm sure our listeners are feeling the same way. Thank you to the listeners. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, thanks again, Paul.
Thank you, Owen. I appreciate all that you do, my friend. You are just salt to the earth and just an amazing individual. Keep doing what you're doing too, Owen. You're reshaping this planet. And when we get that accessibility Mount Rushmore, you're going to be a face on that Mount Rushmore. So thank you for doing what you do.
Yeah, I love that. All right, right back at you, my friend.